Rosie, oh my goodness. I have such a love affair with you.
Same.
It doesn't happen often when you come across somebody and it's like a soul match, especially another woman, right? And you're just like, oh, can we be friends, please? And that's how it felt with you, meeting you for the first time. And I'm so excited not only to share your brilliance and gifts today, but to go even deeper in how we can support women through mindfulness and all the strategies really that you bring to the table, but also to just share what it looks like to be in community and in connection and to have women be there in the trenches with us as we navigate midlife and beyond.
Yes, right? I mean, you said so much just in that. And one thing that I want to say is we have such a loneliness epidemic right now, and so many people struggling to find community and struggling to make friendships. And I want to reiterate what you're saying about the love connection, because look, I'm in my 40s and it's still possible to make relationships like this, that feel like home, that feel like a deep connection or like a soul recognition, like you've met this person before. So it makes me happy and hopeful for everyone, because I feel like we need community and we need support so much, especially now with, the anxiety rates, the stress rates being so high. As women supporting women, I feel like we can no longer keep moving without having a good community in place.
Talk to me. I want to stay on this for a moment because I just want to paint the picture of what is possible, right? Even in our 40s, I think a lot of women, not only are they feeling alone and they're feeling isolated, particularly because they're feeling judged and blamed for what they're going through. But then also, a lot of the ways that we met friends and connected with women is shifting right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of women probably listening right now who are thinking like that, well, good for you too. But that doesn't sound very possible for me.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about what does relationships and connection look like for you in your life besides us, and what does that look like to be cultivating that? Cause I feel like I'm really actively seeking it out. If I get like a little, like a tingle or a ding or like a feel, like I'm going to dive in, like I'm going to double down because I feel like there's nothing to lose in it.
Yeah.
Like I'm open to being brave if it means that I create and curate beautiful, rich relationships so that not only am I supporting them, but that I feel like somebody's got my back.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, when we were younger, we were in a better position to get social prompt. We would either be in school or in some sort of like sport or club. I feel like, back in the 80s and 90s, it was just a different experience. And to be honest, I feel like maybe it's my own desire to believe this, but I feel like it's a lot easier now to connect with people that share maybe perhaps more of the same values. Not to say we should only be friends with people that think like us, right? That's a separate topic, which we can discuss. But I feel like we used to have better prompts before. We don't have them so much now. So that means it takes even more effort for us to be able to cultivate that. I have friends in my life that I've been friends with since I was a child, like childhood friendships that, we live different lives. We see each other on occasion, maybe once a year, maybe less, but they're connections that I still have. I find that friends that I've made in my adult years, in my 30s and 40s, feel so much more solid and so much more deep. Like they're more full of, like there's no more BS. It's just you're maybe even more primed to share your true feelings and to be able to, be more of who you are. And especially now, like we've been talking about, it's harder because there is so much division. And I feel like also social media has created a lot of those sort of narratives that we have about who people are. And I believe that social media as a tool, it's great, but what is it? It's like a double-edged sword, right? Because in one respect, you are finding people that are like-minded, that are into the same things, that are reading the same books, that are listening to the same music, that have the same sense of humor, have the same political beliefs. And on the other side is they have differing beliefs. They have different political views. They have different priorities. Back in the day, we had to actually engage with people without seeing this paraded around like a billboard. So we had a little bit more room to discern.
And there was more finesse.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could engage more with people, and we could make those decisions on a case-by-case basis.
Well, and person to person.
Yes.
Where there was more compassion.
Yeah.
And more understanding one another.
Yeah, like how was it for you making friends when you were like in your 20s to now? Even 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, I would say, the friendships that I have since my 30s and 30s and beyond have been, like you said, richer, deeper, more connected, more aligned, and more so not just interests, but value alignment. And I think it's because that I got more clear about my values and what I stood for and what really mattered to me. And then really started to attract particularly women. And not that I don't have guy friends. I absolutely do. But girl, I am ride or die for the ladies. And so that's just me. It's just what I've been put on this earth to do. It's my dogma. And so, being surrounded by epic women is very much, my way of operating. And I'll be honest with you, I am out here trying to collect my ride or dies. And ride or dies are a different level of friend. And I will tell you, when I met you, I was like, that's ride or die material right there.
She's not wrong. She's not, and you are too, and maybe it is that essence of like attracts like, but I really do feel that many of us have dulled that intuitive sense because we're afraid of, especially in circles of women, let's be honest, because maybe we're afraid of, dishonesty. We might be afraid of cattiness. We might be afraid of people talking behind our backs, like jealousy, especially in
toxic positivity.
Exactly. There's so many things to consider when you are in the space, even like wellness, right? We've had these discussions before. It's unfortunate, but it exists everywhere. And so that is a valid fear for people to dull that sense of that intuitive hit of, oh, this person might be that. I recognize something in this person. So we instead just avoid the connection so that we don't get hurt.
Yeah. Well, and I think particularly for women, it's one of the things that I think society at large has done a beautiful job of is convincing us to not trust our intuition.
Say more.
Yeah. Whether that's in relationships, but more so just trusting our bodies about what doesn't feel right, what's not a priority for us, what's a full body yes versus a full body no, when to seek out care when we don't feel good. I mean, the list is endless.
Well, I mean, this relates to what you do. Like this relates to how we met, with perimenopause and menopause being at the forefront of a lot of women's, a lot of the conversation that's happening right now around women, especially women in their mid to late 30s, 40s, and 50s. There is so much we don't get to express because people aren't listening, we're not believed, we're sort of shunned away. And this is why I feel like having a good circle of women that are actually there to hear you out, to validate you, to encourage you in a genuine way is so important, even if it's just to help aid in your health journey. I'll share just like a very quick story. And I'm happy to, tell you more about like my own perimenopause and menopause journey. But since I went into early menopause, so I started menopause when I was 35, and I was postmenopausal by the time I was 40, and I'm 42. So I've been postmenopausal for 2 years. And in the last 2 years, I've shifted my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest.
But like my entire career path to serve this very particular transition.
Vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a vulnerable group of women that completely get missed when we're talking about perimenopause and menopause care.
Yeah. And so in this transition, I started to share more about what I was going through. And in that sharing, just like I did when I was going through my fertility journey back in my mid-30s, which is kind of what started this whole experience, this whole health experience. Simultaneously, I was trying to get pregnant while I was in perimenopause. I didn't know I was in perimenopause, but again, all of this came to light many years later. But as I began to share my experience over the last 2 years, shifting to this more mindful framework to navigate menopause and these transitions, I started to get so much feedback from women, Mariza, that I've known for almost my entire life, that went through it alone or started and didn't and thought they were losing their minds, or were afraid of getting on HRT because it caused cancer, just like sharing all of these stories. And in that, I started to realize, wow, this is like so much bigger than I am. Clearly, there is a huge void of, it's like not even misinformation, it's no information.
Yeah.
There's like this huge void of, there's no support, there's no information. I don't even know where to start. I remember Googling, what is perimenopause? I didn't even know. I'd heard about menopause. I had no idea what perimenopause was. I'm like, what is that? Like perimenopause? Like,
you are not alone, girl. You are not alone.
So anyway, the story is, just a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine that I've known for almost 2 decades sent me a text message saying, hey, I've been, listening to your podcast, and I've been reading some of what you've been writing about, and I was really scared to reach out to you because I didn't want you to tell me that I had to get on medication, because she's very vehemently against any medication. And it was a long text, I'm scrolling two big swoops.
That's when we leave the voice memo. Okay.
Right. I love that you do that, by the way.
I'm such a voice memo girl.
Yeah, no, it's good. I love it. I love to hear, because you get so much more when somebody.
Inflection.
Yes, you get the inflections. You're getting a little bit more
personality, the attitude.
Yes.
I can tell where a friend is in their cycle based on the voice memos.
Stop.
I can. I'm telling you, because you can, when you know your people, and again, we are different people every day of the month during our reproductive years, but even in peri, if you're still in that, and you can hear the inflection and the tone, and I'm like, oh, that's some late luteal stuff right there. I can feel that.
She said it's late luteal. Okay.
I'm like, I hear some irritation. I hear some about to hurt somebody over there on the other side.
Can you tell now too with peri, or women that are in?
Oh yeah. I would say with peri, it's, it becomes it's the messy middle, right? It's such a crapshoot in terms of where you are, especially in early, I can tell. For many women, late 30s, early 40s, I can totally tell. But it just elongates. All of a sudden, that late luteal is the whole luteal. So you're half the month. You're it's not hard to distinguish at that point when a friend is just they're cognitive. You can just tell oh my God, my brain's fried. I'm scrambled. So-and-so did this. That's when all the stuff starts, all the tea starts to spill is in late luteal. You kept it to, you just kept it to yourself in the follicular phase. And then it all just spills out in the luteal phase.
And it really comes out, I tell you. But it's good. It needs a place to go.
Oh, for sure. No, I mean, that's what we're doing. We're holding space for each other.
Yeah.
And I love memos because, yeah, you get that real feeling and it feels like you're in a conversation even when, like, it's hard to match up on a phone or on a FaceTime or even in real life. Like you and I, we're 2.5 hours apart, give or take, and I'm going to work my darndest to get to see you as much as possible. And like, I can easily shoot you a memo, like 60 seconds. Let's be honest, it's more like 3 minutes. Let's be honest.
I like listening to it though. It's good.
And so that makes all the difference. So yeah, the long text message. So she did not message.
Yeah, so she did not. She sent the long text message saying, like, basically stating all her fears. And as I kept reading, I'm like, oh, she's in it. Like, I know she's in it. And so I called her and I said, I hear you. And I just want you to know that I know what it's like and I'm here to support you. I'm glad that you're taking steps, because ultimately what she was saying is, thank you so much. It prompted me to go get a hormone panel. And sure enough, she has no estrogen, progesterone's low, no testosterone. Like, she was essentially sending I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to give me unsolicited advice, which I never do. But I think she was just like prompting herself, explaining herself of why she didn't reach out sooner. She was saying that she took action, and then she was thanking me for the content that I was putting out. And that, to me, when I called her, I was like, look, I'm so glad that you did that even just me sharing my story, that may not be, my resolution was getting on HRT after figuring out what HRT was. Right?
Amen. No lie.
So I'm a big proponent. I will
too.
Yeah, I will die on that hill. I'll be on it for the rest of my life, God willing. And, but that's not everybody's path, and I respect that. But yeah, it made me, back to what your original point was, the importance of having community and having women that you could rely on and speak to. I think it's so important to have that person.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you are sharing, that we're having this conversation, and that, friends and people and women you don't even know read that, and it was a cue. The Mayo Clinic just came out with a big study that looked at a couple different areas of women in menopause. And it was really looking at how we were getting support, if we were getting support. And 84% of menopausal women did not seek out support. And there was a couple of reasons, but one that sticks out that really kind of connects to what we're talking about. The first is that women just didn't know. And just kind of similar to you I just didn't know what perimenopause was. Yeah. And so many women don't even know exactly what menopause is. They don't know that it's a full body recalibration. They don't know that frozen shoulder, the joint pain, the UTIs, they hear hot flashes, night sweats, low libido, maybe some sleep issues, and call it a day. Like, that's menopause. But what about these other symptoms? So a lot of these women were not connecting the dots because the knowledge gap is so great. But the other reason, the big reason, was that women feel judged in their doctor's office for what they're experiencing. They feel blamed for what they're experiencing. And as a result, they don't want to get lectured at or judged at. And so they don't seek out care.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's 100,000% correct. And I'm not surprised by those statistics at all. It's unfortunate. And I will say, over the last 2 years that I've done a major deep dive into my own studies and research on this, I am no longer surprised by these statistics. And that within itself is upsetting, because it's like, yeah, of course. Why that doesn't surprise me at all. If it was the other way around and it affected, the male reproductive system, it would be a whole different story. And that's just the truth,
Yeah, no, it would be a state of an emergency. For us, it's menopause.
Yeah.
I want to talk specifically about kind of the eye of the storm. And the eye of the storm can happen at any point in midlife. But I feel like so many of my patients, it's late perimenopause, really when estrogen and progesterone are declining, life is lifing, and the level of anxiety and depression is skyrocketing. I think it's up to 40% of women are clinically diagnosed with depression and anxiety in late perimenopause, typically between like 46 and 52 years old. And I'd love for you, I know this has been an area of focus for you as well, and I'd love to explore not so much, why this is happening, although I am so down to talk about that. But what can women do? I mean, I'm a big proponent of HRT, but it's only one tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
And we really need more tools than that.
Yeah, I think having experienced that probably worst moment firsthand, having all the tools, knowing all of the breath work and, meditation and the acupuncture and all of the things that I was doing that weren't working, that feeling of just defeat and feeling like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like, yeah, like what you're saying, HRT is not going to be for everyone. It helped me get out of that space, but there was also other things that I employed during that time that helped me navigate this. So during my, I would say, worst moment, I hadn't experienced panic attacks since I was a teenager, like full-blown physiological palpitations, narrow, my vision, what is it, like
tunnel vision,
the complete panic physiological response since I was 15 years old.
Yeah, which is maybe puberty for you.
Yeah. It's exactly
so the other neuroendocrine transition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So experiencing that as a, mental health professional, as
about to be a mental health doctor.
Well, yeah, we still got a couple more years, but
we're getting there, girl. We're getting there.
We're getting there. And feeling like I have all these tools. I have all of these tools. This is what I do for a living. I help people navigate this. What is happening to me and why am I not able to think my way out of it? Why am I not able to do all of the things that I do to get out? And so for me, I think about those small moments that helped. And I'm speaking specifically to maybe somebody that's listening to this right now that maybe isn't on HRT yet, maybe doesn't know that they're in perimenopause yet. Maybe they're just experiencing a lull in their life that maybe they don't know whether it's related or not. I think the biggest, most important thing for me to do in that moment was just to pause. And I know that for some people, this might be so cliche, but I remember in my house, I literally had to I was in the kitchen and I just had just everything had to stop. I was having a panic attack and I just sat on the floor. And Tori's like, are you okay? Like, do we need to go to the hospital? Like, what? Like, he was just like, what is going on? And I'm just like, just stop talking.
You're driving my panic even.
Yeah. I'm like, I need the world to stop. I need just one moment. And I remember just pausing and sitting on the ground and just doing grounding techniques and just taking deep breaths, understanding the physiology component of a panic attack, understanding that I needed to slow down. I needed my parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. So I was just elongating my exhales and just taking a moment to reground. And after about a minute and a half, I was back in my body and I was like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on because this just came from literally out of nowhere. I was in the kitchen. I was making lunch. I'm like, I don't know that this tuna salad really triggered me that much. You know what I'm saying?
No, really. You're like, it was mundane tasks.
Yeah, it was just came from out of nowhere. And so I still really heavily lean into doing practices like breath work, like, grounding, being in a tactile experience. A lot of the times people think, oh, okay, sit and meditate when you're panicking, like take a few deep breaths. It doesn't work for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that was like one of the first ones. After that, the sitting on the ground didn't work. I had to go outside. I had to go walk. I had to do other things that stimulated other parts of my system so that I can ground and connect. And you know this, right? As a perimenopause expert, it's like a moving target. Something that worked one day might not work the next.
It's a moving target.
Yeah. And so I think that initially, if I had to give the people that are listening right now just one technique that works, it's utilizing, learning how to use your breath to ground, to create even safety if it's just for a couple of minutes.
I love that. A couple things, if you're open for me sharing, that has kind of helped me, because
Please.
I mean, I'm constant, survival mode is my mode, like just kind of pulling myself out of that, which like hypervigilance and
Hypervigilance twins.
exactly. That's why you're ride or die. I'm like, no, just kidding. So if I can't get outside, I will start naming things that are physical in the room to shift my state, to bring my prefrontal cortex back on as I'm doing longer exhales, like the 4-7-8 breath. But I'm like, identify what is real so that my the executive functioning part of my brain comes back.
Yeah.
If I can go outside, I try to look 5 to 10 feet out. And so that, because everything's here, everything's right here, right? Even us right now, we're at a screen, and that's so much of what life is. And it can put your brain on the fritz. And so I try to just stare out, into the backyard or into the street, and ideally nature. And it just allows my brain to just kind of wander off. And then the other thing I think is helpful, I'm curious if this is something you do, is I try to send my brain a lot of safety signals during the day. I'm constantly telling my brain everything is okay. Nothing is wrong.
That is so huge. That is so huge. Sending safety signals to my brain. Absolutely. 1000%. And I feel like people like us that are also hypervigilance twins, that is the number one, because that's where you go when you're having a panic attack. Panic is alerting your body you are not safe. You're going to need to run from this bear, this non-existent bear, this tiger that's just showed up out of nowhere. So safety, I think, is one of the most important things. And sometimes it's one of the most challenging things, because you don't really, it's like you want to believe that you're safe, but your brain is alerting you like something is wrong. And that's what anxiety is, right? Anxiety is a signal to the body that something is not okay. And there's so many physiological reasons why that could be happening. Obviously, when you're going through perimenopause, I'm sure you can speak to this more, like the chemical reaction that's happening is thrown off, right? And
yes, all of it thrown off.
It's all just, it's like, it's the visual that I would have with my hormones is like a washing machine. Like if you've ever, when I was little, we used to go to the laundromat, and I would love to lift up the washing machine lid and look down and just kind of see the swooshing of the water in the clothes and everything kind of just, moving in not unison, just everything splashing.
Everything was just a little bit chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is what the hormones are doing. Yeah. Like, this is it right here. There's no rhythm. There's no rhyme. It's just like some stuff is going to the left, other stuff's going to the right. And it's like some of it's crashing into each other. And that's what the experience is like. And so I don't want to keep painting this picture like it's fucking chaos, but it is, And
I think collectively, women who are listening are feeling what you're feeling. I have felt what you are feeling. Like, it's been the the neuro-related symptoms that have rocked me to my core. The anxiety, the depression, the insurmountable, like, just low of lows. Where 5 days ago, everything was like nothing in my life had changed. Just my brain. Like, yeah. I want my brain back. That's like, it's my brain that changed. It wasn't my life.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, right? It's like, can I tell you something? When I got on the right dose of HRT, I was like, oh, hi there. Did you ever watch the movie Hook?
Yes.
Do you remember Hook? Do you remember when the little boy goes up to Robin Williams' face and he like pulls it back and he's like, there you are, Peter. Do you remember? He's like, oh, right. Because he's older now, right? But he like is trying to find
himself,
the old Peter, in his face. And I remember having that feeling like, oh, there you are, Peter. I'm like, oh, there you are, Rosie. Like, where have you been for years? Like it just didn't, I hadn't felt for myself in so long. I'd almost forgotten what it was like.
It's like the veil gets lifted.
Yeah, it's the craziest thing. And I don't mean to sound like esoteric, but maybe I do. I like sounding esoteric sometimes. But it was like my soul was back in my body,
Mm.
you know?
That's how profound it can be.
Yeah.
You know, I think women are beginning to realize and understand how big of a role these hormones are playing on our brain. And then as a result, how that impacts our life and how we show up for the people that matter for us or to us, you know, how we show up in the work that we want to do in the world, how we just feel. I mean, we think about the amount of spinning plates in the air that we've just been handling for a long time. And all of a sudden, those spinning plates feel almost impossible to manage. And that's hard to reconcile. And then on top of that, anxiety and panic attacks. And you're just like, I don't have time for any of this.
Literally. Like, who has time?
Nobody. Especially right now. It's one thing for it to happen when you were a teenager, you know, because it's like, okay, you know, but like a 40-year-old, late 30-year-old, responsibility, career, parents, all of it. Yeah. All of it. The timing is so laughable.
What has been your, like, did you know the minute you went into Peri, and did you have support? Like, do you have a friend that you called or somebody that you were able to lean on as you started to notice things were changing?
Yeah. Girl, I gaslit myself. I really doubted myself. I was like, this can't be. Like, and it wasn't that I was like, oh, no, this can't be perimenopause, because I was okay with that. I thought it was so many other things. I thought it was my thyroid. I thought it was my hypervigilant stress response system. I thought it was because it kind of had the flavor of some of that. You know, it felt like burnout. So I thought I was having a Hashimoto's flare. And my antibodies had been up because I was breastfeeding my son and I really couldn't do anything besides natural, like food and some supplements to manage my antibodies. A lot of women don't know, especially with Hashis, one, that women can be diagnosed with Hashis in postpartum because of even postpartum being a bit of a default inflammation state, and the thyroid kind of gets shifted and changed. So we see a lot of diagnosis of Hashimoto's in postpartum. But then if you do have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, there's a good chance that your antibodies are going to climb. So even though I worked really hard to get them almost into remission before my pregnancy, I just watched them just steadily go up over the course of my postpartum journey. So I knew that was happening. And so that was the first thing I kind of pointed at. Like I was like, it's Hashis. I'm flaring. And too many things can be true at once with perimenopause. You know, a lot of women are in perimenopause with chronic conditions. You know,
can you actually, you know, I've heard you talk about this before. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because I feel like this is the sort of the process that gets so lost in the shuffle, because a lot of the times, they are co-occurring experiences, especially with autoimmune diseases, right?
Absolutely. Autoimmune diseases, polycystic ovarian syndrome, inflammatory diseases, even infertility issues, right? We're coming into perimenopause maybe earlier, you know, as premature menopause or early menopause. I would consider that's an underlying situation that's going on behind the scenes that's driving early menopause. Or autoimmune conditions that may be like endometriosis, or which hasn't been officially categorized, but we know it's an autoimmunity. Migraines, unofficially categorized as autoimmunity, right? Scleroderma and lupus, and these things that maybe women had been keeping under wraps.
Yeah.
And then as the protective shield begins to falter, all of a sudden it presents. And we see these diagnoses. So we see a higher concentration of autoimmunity developing in perimenopause than at any time in a woman's life.
Wow.
And that's because perimenopause, in a lot of ways, with the erratic binding of receptor sites, these hormones are immune system modulators. They are modulating the gut microbiome and microbiome diversity. As that begins to tank, we see all of this inflammation rise up. And whatever was vulnerable in your body, whether you came in with a chronic issue or maybe something was developing but just wasn't in your awareness or your field, right? Because we don't just go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
With an autoimmunity or an inflammatory disease. We were probably somewhere in the range, or maybe at 10% or 25%. And then peri tips us over the scale. And then there's also viral activations and other things that are going on. You know, we hear all those cases of women getting COVID and in perimenopause at the same time. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a woman tell me, a patient or a colleague that went into menopause early because of COVID. And so so there's these other extenuating circumstances like opportunists that can drive us into a state of menopause. It does get multifaceted, gets very complicated and complex. But again, this is where I feel like we really miss, taking care of women at the highest level.
Taking care of women, taking care of ourselves. And yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to be able to even have these conversations, right? There's so much shame around the conversation still of menopause, of women going, I mean, now maybe because I'm on the like menopause side of TikTok and Instagram, I see it all the time. So the empowerment, like everybody's posting and I just love it, but I have other friends that are definitely not on that side. And
they're just trying to get there.
Yeah.
They're climbing the hill, the mountain.
Yeah. And it's, I think that the more that we could have conversations like this, the more normalized it will become, and the more normalized having these conversations will become. And it gives us the empowerment and, the invitation to ask questions, to ask our doctors, to do the right types of tests, to get different opinions, to explore what other types of remedies we can use for our autoimmune diseases, or to practice self-care. What kind of mindfulness practices can we incorporate into our lives if I can't make a 180-degree turn at the moment because I have to work 2 jobs, I have to support my kids, I have to go to school, whatever it is. Like, we need to be able to have a good support system to encourage us, to keep us accountable, to help us move towards better health.
I agree. Well, and that's the reason it's so funny. I feel like we're two podcasters over here, like asking each other questions.
I know. I knew this was going to happen, by the way. I'm just like, because I want to know. He's literally the beginning of like a 5-part.
This is your part 2. Exactly. We need to do a series. That's what it is. Nailed it. I want to quickly pivot because I want you to spend a little bit of time with us talking about radical love as a form of healing. What does radical love look like for women in midlife who are learning about the changes, aging, more importantly, their evolving identity? This is big because that's the thing that comes up with my women all the time. It's like, who am I? And I love what your share around, the Peter Pan movie, just like a hook, like, Rosie, is that you? Like, there you are, like, where the heck have you been? Like,
yeah, look, radical love to me means embracing the whole of who you are. Like, all of who you are is welcome. And I think if we start from the point of feeling whole as we can be, meet ourselves where we are, I already think that's a great starting point. And I see radical love as an evolution of softness. Like, the more that we can soften into the present moment, into who we are, regardless of this is who I used to be or this is who I want to be, it's more about just, again, arriving in that moment of this is where I am now. Right? It creates the fertile ground for us to be able to grow into the next version, right? Like, it's more of like a remembrance. I think about when we were like kids, right? I mean, I didn't have a great childhood. And I know that maybe,
nor did I.
Some of us could relate. But I do remember, even as a child, like feeling like there was something in me that wasn't broken. Even if the world around me was breaking, like something inside just felt whole. And, when you're so young, like you just don't, you understand, being in a chaotic environment. I grew up in East LA in a gang-riddled environment. There was a lot of violence. And so even in those moments, I could very, very, very vividly remember knowing that inside of me there was something else that felt like it would keep me whole. Not safe, it would keep me whole. And I didn't have words for it back then, but as I got older and I went through this journey and I became, a meditation teacher, and I started teaching yoga, and I, started a podcast, wrote a book, like the basis of that stemmed from that place. Because when people would ask me, like, how did you do this? Like, how did you make it from there to here? How were you able to overcome so much adversity? And the only answer that I could come up with was that. And that, to me, that wholeness, that's what radical love was. This unstruck, undamaged part of me that felt complete. And I still felt that even fast forward 30 plus years later, going through menopause. And like you said, those teenage years, where you're grappling with your identity and PTSD and who you are and whatever, still feeling that same centered wholeness inside that I couldn't sometimes describe, but I just felt. So I think that for all of us, even if we're able to conceptualize, if we don't feel it in our body, if we can even conceptualize the fact that there is something within us that is bigger than symptomology, than broken relationships, than a career you're unhappy with, it's bigger than what is happening to the world at large, that you can find respite in that wholeness part of you. I think ultimately, that is a great place for us to begin to create a life that feels radically whole and radically loved.
And if somebody wanted to just go deeper on this, really come home to themselves in that way, because I feel like, what I hear, it's so beautiful. And like, I love that there was just a deep knowing, but I can imagine that there are people who are really struggling with that. And so I know your book really dives deeper into this. Would the book be the best place?
Yeah, I would definitely say the book is called You Are Radically Loved, and it's been out for a couple of years now. You can get it anywhere, wherever books are sold. I narrate it on Audible, so if you've got an Audible credit, get it on Audible.
So one click, everybody. One click. And if you're like me, you always have credits. Because
yes, I do too.
Once you spend it, it's not like you spent it. I don't know, girl. I'm like, whatever, I got credits.
I know. It's almost like they're like, oh, it's free. I'm like, I'm paying for it somehow. But I love having the credits. I'm like, I'm going to get these. And I love listening to books. I drive a lot, in LA. And I know that you do too. But it's anytime I'm in the car, I'm listening to a book. So yeah, I would say reading or listening to You Are Radically Loved would be a great starting point. I go deeper into my journey. I talk about, my childhood and sort of what led me to do the work that I do now. And I think it's a really great guidebook and tool for people that feel lost.
Yeah. Rosie, love, where else would you love us to go and plug into you?
Well, people can go, I'm kind of everywhere. Typically, I live mostly on Instagram. I like posting stories. I don't really post a lot. I like Substack way better. And we've just relaunched the latest Substack. So you can just go to Substack and search Rosie Acosta, and you can follow me there. And we have a new season of the Radically Well podcast coming out. I don't know when this is coming out. It's coming out or it's already out. Okay. So a new season of the Radically Well podcast will be going live in January. I'm also a part of this docuseries called Balance, and where I share my journey through perimenopause and menopause, along with some other incredible experts, doctors, colleagues that share their story as well. And I believe that'll be, I don't know if I can say this yet or not, depending on when it comes out. It'll be on a streamer where you can stream it very popularly. Popular streamer.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Thank you, love, for coming on and sharing your brilliance today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You're amazing.
You too. Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are ready to learn more about perimenopause and how to navigate with a lot of ease and grace, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can join our community. Don't forget to share this video with someone that you love, that you know is navigating the perimenopause journey as well, because they deserve to feel their best too. See you in the next video.